My name is Trinity Hardy. I'm currently in my last semester here at the Academy. I was a member of the team all 4 years, and I loved every year of it. And now I serve as a manager my last semester, and I will graduate in a couple months and commission.
Yes, you will. I'm so excited for you. I'm more excited about your impact you're going to have on your soldiers. That will be wonderful. But let's get into these questions. This first bit is about impact actually. And so how did playing basketball at West Point shape the person that you are today?
Yes, sir. So with basketball, we understand that, you have 5 players on the court who work together to score a basket or stop the other team from scoring. And one thing that we all know about basketball, it's not just about the 5 player. It's about those that are on the bench. It's about the coaching staff. It's about the managers that support. It's about the ORs, the officer representatives that help us. And just being on the team and experiencing that for all 4 years, it really sparked what team means and family. And being at West Point, they talk about how it takes a village and you can't do it alone. And so having that theme around me 24/7, you have to buy in. You got to drink the Kool-Aid. And once I started looking at it like, hey, like I'm not in this by myself. I got a team. I have basketball players. I have company mates. I have classmates. I have officers that all are working towards being better for not only ourselves, but our future soldiers that we're going to lead. And, basketball just aided on to that with, it just being a team culture.
I love that. And your concept about how it impacted more than just on the basketball court. You mentioned about what's happening in the company or in the future as a lieutenant, and so it ties in really to this next question, which is how did the discipline and teamwork required in college basketball prepare you for the challenges and successes that you've had in other realms, in your cadet life, in your responsibilities you've had, and that you see portraying or playing a part in your future?
Yes, sir. So one thing with playing under Coach Traversy for all 4 years is we went through afternoon practices, and I came at the academy the same time that she came in, and so we were both technically plebes trying to figure it out. With 2 different agendas. And then I remember going into my yuck year, we started early morning practices, and that kind of just changed ultimately kind of, I guess, started with this challenges, of course, because it's one of those things where it's easy to practice, afternoons when you're up and you're awake. And you could also argue that, the class loads that we take, by the time we get to practice, it's been a long day, sir, and we all know that. But one thing about 6 a.m. practices, like that was definitely like a gritty thing. But at the end of the day, I'm very thankful that she did do that. While I'm not a morning person myself, we understand that, PT formation is going to happen early in the morning, and you can choose 2 things. You can either be the grouch and the Grinch, and you don't want to be there, and now your soldiers are feeding off that energy, or you can be that light, you could be that spark. And back to our previous question, you can be a part of that team that doesn't care about those weaknesses. We turn those weaknesses into strength. There's nobody else up at 6 a.m. There's nobody else taking 20 plus credit hours. And so it's one of those things where like those challenges, we aided them to eventually become successes of ours.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love your comment about it's the choice. We have that choice. And I think one of the things that Coach Traversy would say was that, do you give energy or do you take energy?
Give energy or
And
take
and
it.
and you did it's so important to be consistent and give that energy every time, which is
Absolutely.
wonderful. And and so as we think about what you had to do on the court, off the court, and so forth, how did the support system within the team and the academy contribute to your growth, towards your growth into the leader you are today?
Yes, sir. Huge. I think my theme for this whole conversation is it takes a village, sir. Obviously, like the coaches, their job is at the end of the day, we got to win some games. But being at the academy, we all know that basketball alone, whatever sport you participate in, is not going to get you to the finish line. There's academics, there's military, there's physical, there's so much more. And physical is not your sport. Physical is the classes that you're taking. Physical is the Army fitness test that you have to take. There's so many different things that your coaches may not be able to aid you in. And I'm biased, but I'm a big fan of our officer representatives. I mean, I don't come from a military background, and I remember just having so many questions and either aiding them to you or Colonel Wilson or Colonel Powell, just so many different outlooks, so many different people that were always there helping me out. And then on the academic side, our academic advisors, they understand the struggle. They understand that, maybe sometimes 8 o'clock is the best time to meet to help with a certain, it doesn't matter the time, they will be there for you and they will make themselves available with you. And I don't know who made the structure of West Point and put officers on campus to live here, but it was so beneficial. I'll never forget. I had an instructor, a Chem 102 instructor. We would hop up on teams every, I won't say every day, sir, but every 1 or 2 days a week, and just grind out on Chem 102, because I had to get it and he wanted me to get it. And it was just that honest, like, hey, I'm just as invested in you as you're invested, and we're going to do this together. And that aspect of not feeling like you're alone goes miles. And I appreciate them, sir.
Well, I appreciate you appreciating them. That's wonderful. And it maybe that's what you think of, but I'm wondering if you have any other aspect of being a student athlete at West Point that you are most grateful for.
Yeah, student athlete at West Point. I am going to shout out all of our community events, sir. We have this game, and I want to say January, February, where we have a lot of elementary kids just come out to our games, and they're only there specifically to root for Army, and they do just that. We have another event called Lead Her in the spring, and just honestly, all the kids that come to our games, sir, and just been able to go through this program and see the kids with their pen and pencil right after the games ready for us to sign, like it's just a feeling unmatched. It's one of those things where you question every day, like, hey, am I making a difference? Am I being a good role model? And seeing those kids there, like, potentially wanting to come to West Point, wanting to join the military, want to play women's basketball, like the little wins in life, sir. And those are the things that just make it like, what, it's so worth it. It goes by quick, sir. It goes by quick, but I love my 4 years.
I love that. That's wonderfully said, and it is true. We have the rabble rousers that are at almost every game, but you just don't really need almost anyone else there when you have all those elementary kids at those games,
Yes.
because you can't hear any. It's just the most wonderful energy. Oh
Yes,
my
sir.
gosh, fantastic. And so, that arguably I think is probably one of those favorite memories of, of an event at Crystal Arena. But do you have any other favorite memories that you'd like to share about just playing basketball at West Point, either at West Point or at a different place, but while playing, any favorite memories?
Yes, sir. So like I mentioned, under the staff of Coach Traversy, I was the only senior in last year's class, but I came in with two other amazing people, Ashlyn Bigelow and Boston Kearney. They're 2025 grads. And me personally, I can say that I have never lost the Navy. And sir, that is something that I will wear on my chest with pride every single day. It's starting to get cold, so we're wearing our black jackets, and every plebes like, what's that star mean? I'm like, every star tells a story. And one of my favorites, sir, of all time is probably going to be my Yuck year. It was my first Army Navy game at Navy for the Star, and there's nothing that prepares you like it. I remember Coach had like all the music, not the music, but the crowds going on the speaker. And then she'd have like, all the different distractions. And she'd let the practice players behind the gym going like this when we shoot free throws, like anything to make us realize like we're really going into enemy territory. And there was nothing that could prepare you for the lights, for the crowd. It's like everyone in there, like, really doesn't want you to win, except for that row. And there's also a great support base that comes and travels with us. We have the Spirit Band. They come and they're loud and they're proud. We see the Ravs out there. And so I remember scoring that last layup with like, I don't know, 8 seconds left. And I remember Navy having maybe a second or two left to do something crazy. And I'll never forget Cameron Hall. She like runs at me and she picks me up and everyone. And sir, I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. But there's so many great memories, but that's definitely top 5, sir.
Well, I love that. And I would argue, guess what? It's also one of mine. So in my little interview, I talked about that moment.
Perfect.
You're part of my favorite memories.
Yes. I love that, sir.
So the next question, which ties it, these are all kind of build on each other. That's an incredible memory. Is there any particularly funny or memorable story involving your teammates or coaches that would be fun to share and capture?
Yes. So, a funny memory. What would happen? So, I mentioned the morning practices, and at that time, you're trying to figure out what's motivating the team because here you are, you and your 14 other teammates, and you guys got about an hour and a half. And by the way, you still have class to go to. So, are you really going to start the day off on a bad note? And I remember one of our themes was just like, let's go, let's go. And I remember it got to the point where the coaches were finally like, hey, like, no more let's go. Find another saying. We need to figure something else out. And it was just one of those things where it was like, even when no one knew what to say, like, let's go was our thing. And whether it was helpful, sir, I don't know. But it was just so funny how the whole team, like, you would think that was our motto, and the coaches were like, hey, no more let's go. Let's move on. Let's move on, sir. So that's definitely probably a funny memory.
I love that. I love that. Now, you mentioned the game, so I'll have to say you can't use that Army Navy game for my next question because I know of a number of different games that I thought were just so powerful that you were part of. So I'd like you to say, is there maybe any specific game or moment that stands out as especially significant to you? For sure, the first Army Navy where you did that incredible layup was just remarkable. But how about any other game or specific moment that's just so meaningful, and why? Why is it
Yes, sir.
meaningful?
So this past season, my first year, we had the opportunity to be a part of the WNIT, which is really cool because, you walk into the gym, you walk into Crystal, and you see all these banners. You see Beat Navy everywhere. But when you finally like look around and you take time to read these banners, you see that there were Patriot League champions. You see there were regular season champions, and you see there were WNIT teams that went a part of this. And so to be in that space with previous teams that have done this, it was just like, wow, like making it better than you found it. One of those things. And that's honestly what type of mark you want to leave with whatever you do. You're just hoping I'm making Army women's basketball better than I found it. And being able to leave that legacy as the only senior on the team stands with me. And I say that to say that we played Bryant in our first round, and we were up at Rhode Island. It was spring break. The Corps was on leave, and we were here playing basketball. And so the question of, do we really love basketball comes into play. And turns out we do, sir. It was one of those things where we're here together with the sport that we love, with the players that we love. Like, we're doing this and we're making history. We are putting the season 2024, 2025 on a banner. And I was so proud of that team, and specifically Fiona Hastig. She's an amazing person. She's going to be an incredible leader. She's just what she did, what Cameron Tate did, Kaya Smith, Brooke Wilson, Reese Erickson, Soleil Montrose, Taylor Wilson. Sir, I'm going down the whole roster. It was amazing. It was one of those things where I know for myself, I didn't have the best game. And it was like, you know what, you're the only senior and you think all the pressure's on you. And when I was able to look to my left and right and here you have these yucks and cows like, hey, we got you. And it goes back to that team. It goes back, it takes a village, sir. And I've always been proud of them, but that was definitely one of those like, wow, like the babies are not babies anymore. Like they're leaders, they're growing up. And to see them just kind of take it up and do what they need to do and be intentional per possession. When we needed to stop, we got to stop. When we needed energy was there, sir. And that was definitely one of those big team wins, sir. And then we continued to play Rutgers, and unfortunately our season ended there, sir. And while it was sad, I was just so proud of that team, because who knew, like at the start of our season, who knew we would, one, be in the Patriot League championship, two, make it to the WNIT, and three, win the first round of the WNIT, sir. So there was just so many like, can this get any better? And it just kept getting better, sir. So yeah.
Well, I'm so proud of you all, what you did and what you put in to make that season. It's just wonderful. Yeah, and anyone who might be watching this video, they might not understand a bit about, you're talking about, you have all these other competing demands and whatnot, but what do you wish? What's the one or two things you wish people would know about what does it mean to be a student athlete at a service academy, especially West Point?
Yes, sir. The one thing I wish that I could share with anyone who's either considering coming to a service academy or just hears what it is, like, what do I want to be a part of service academy, a student athlete, a cadet athlete? Um, I want them to really focus on the duty. It's one of those things where we live in a world where, we have NIL, and we have, who gets the most likes on Instagram and who makes the most points and who gets like, there's all these individual things. But at the end of the day, when you choose to come to a service academy, you choose to be a part of something much bigger than yourself. And while I love basketball and I love what it has done for me and will continue to do for me in the future, sir, I ultimately have to remember why I chose to come to West Point, why I chose Army in the first place. And that is to serve, that is to protect my country, that is to be able to lead soldiers on the battlefield, sir. And I think that's something that sometimes can get lost when it comes down to recruiting, because it's like, oh, I'm recruiting to play basketball. Yes, you're on scholarship, but it's like, do you know what you're getting yourself signed up for? And I say that not to scare anybody, because we have, like I said, we have a whole team of females, and I have a whole. There's much more cadets that love to do this, but I really ask for people that are either considering coming to the service academy that you believe in your heart and you honestly figure out why it is you want to come to the service academy, because that's what's going to get you through those tough times. That's what's going to help you see it through when you hit those moments of adversity. And those are the moments that are going to be like, wow, like it was all worth it at the end.
Oh, that's just beautiful. And that ties into, you've almost answered my next question, which was, what advice would you give to young women who are considering playing college basketball, especially at a place like West Point? I think that answers that beautifully. I mean, is there anything else that we would want to say on that, or did that cover that question?
We pretty much covered it, sir. I definitely would also add that, don't overlook Army. Do not overlook Army. While we're a service academy, while we do have military obligations, while the academics is hard, don't overlook our basketball team. We got some girls who know how to put a ball in the basket. We've got some girls that know how to get a stop, and we have the most energetic coaching staff, program, alumni. Sir comes every single game with the energy. I'm pretty sure I have like a beat Air Force pin, a beat Navy pin, all that Sir gave me. Um, and it's like the love and the support that comes with being a part of this program means much more. It just means so much, sir.
I love that. Okay, so then let's see here. Two last questions as I think about this. Okay, how has your definition of success evolved since your time as a college athlete?
Yes. So coming in as a freshman, we think success is winning all your games, going undefeated, hitting 1,000 points, being rookie of the year, being player of the year, you have all these goals, and there's nothing wrong with having goals, because I just told you all my goals that I had coming in here. But when you go through life, you'll notice that you'll hit adversity. Like, I tore my ACL plebe year. Wasn't expecting that. Kind of was my world kind of just paused for a little bit. And it's one of those things where I remember every single day that I felt like I couldn't do it, my teammates would pick me up. My parents would call. My family, both in Florida and in New York, would help pick me up. And it's like, hey, Trin, like, I know it's tough, but we got you. And it was one of those things where you'll learn that the little things are wins. The little wins matter, and they're ultimately what comes to your success. And now that I'm a firstie, you get into positions where you are over about anywhere from 30 to maybe 100 cadets under your umbrella of leadership, whatever it is you're doing. Right now, I'm the battalion regulations and discipline officer, and I basically have to administer that every cadet within my battalion is following all USMA policy, and I also oversee any hours or walking tours that happen for the battalion. And you realize that that's a lot. There's a lot of different moving pieces. And then I also mentioned that I'm a manager for the women's basketball team. It's a lot of different moving pieces. However, if I can communicate with my subordinates, if I can have that effective communication and figure out what's going on, small wins, and eventually that puzzle piece will come together and you'll see success. And specifically for the basketball court, I realized that, you know what? Did I score 1,000 points? No. Did I become player of the year? No. Was I defensive player of the year? No. All goals that I wanted. Did I make Sisters for Life? Yes. Did I make the WNIT with a team that no one thought would make it happen? Yes. Did I become a better person and a better leader? Yes. And so that's what I mean by my idea of success has changed and evolved, because it wasn't no longer about the individual statistics. It was more about the team. It was more about that purpose, sir.
Okay. I think I just got chills there. That's just beautiful. So now one last question, and you've been hinting at so many different statements and even been addressing as if you're talking to maybe a future potential player out there. So I'll let that be our last question. What message would you like to share with the current and future members of the Army West Point women's basketball team?
So I'm going to use my reference from church that my pastor uses, and he has this rope, and he has this long rope, usually that you play with like tug of war or something at field day as a kid, and he has a little blue piece of tape on it, and he says, "This is your life." He says, "This is your life." And I'm going to use that example, that analogy, as the rope is the women's basketball line. There are many alumni that came before me, and there are many alumni that came after me. And what you decide to do with that, whether you play with a year or 2 years or 3 years, or for myself, 4 years, what you do with that little blue piece of tape is up to you. And you make choices and you make decisions that influence not only yourself in that blue tape, but the people around you. And that's one of those things where I just want to leave that on you, because whatever you did with that blue tape, it's on you.